Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the World Football Summit podcast. I'm your host, Jaime, CMO at World Football Summit. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Soheil Var. Now, Soheil is a unique profile within the industry. He is a person with the dream of becoming a professional football player. Nothing new there, you might say, but his uniqueness comes from the fact that he's documenting his journey, and along the way, he has become a social media influencer with more than 600,000 followers on social media, the majority of which are on TikTok. He has worked with brands like LaLiga, Real Madrid or Espanyol, and several top-tier hotels. In the conversation, we cover the ups and downs of his journey and documenting everything on social, lessons that football properties can apply to their social media strategy based on his examples, what he has learned from working with the likes of Real Madrid or Espanyol, what it takes to be a change maker, and of course, the phase of the journey where he currently is in, including the latest update on his trials with the team in Dubai. I think you will be surprised with this amazing conversation. Two final comments before jumping into it though. First, World Football Summit is just around the corner. Will you be joining us? There's certainly time to do so. Head over to our website and make sure you purchase your ticket right now. Whether in person or virtually, we really hope to see you there. Second, please feel free to leave your feedback or your comments on social media about this conversation. It helps us understand if you get something out of it. With that, nothing more from my side. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and let's welcome Soheil Var. Okay, Soheil, so thank you very much for joining us in this new episode of the World Football Summit podcast. Can't really wait to hear all about your journey, which is, for the ones that we follow you regularly, it's super exciting. And that's actually going to be my first question for the audience, really. Can you tell more about your story? Why did you decide to document your journey? Everything you can share about the background that you bring to the table.
Of course. First off, thank you for having me. I am super excited for WFS 2022. It's going to be a huge one. And so let's get into it. My name is Soheil Var, 23, turning 24. I'm a football player who is documenting my journey to becoming a professional football player on social media. A little bit of background story. So I was born in Austria, and then we moved to Canada when I was very young. My background is Iranian. So we moved to Canada, and growing up, I never had the resources to play the game at a high level. I started late at around 13, 14, which put me at a big disadvantage because growing up, a lot of that youth development happens at the ages of 7, 8, 10, 12. So I already started late, had a big disadvantage, but I had that dream that everybody has, becoming a pro player. So I took my shot at it. I went to trials, I went to showcases, to tournaments, and I had a lot of failures. I got cut. I didn't play well. I got benched. And after so many different failures, I decided, let me document my experience to inspire other people and get them to really understand what the journey is like. Not just the highlights, not just the ups, but everything, the setbacks, the downs, the lessons you learn, because the players at the top, you only really get to see their highlights once they've made it to the top. But you don't get to see those moments where they really struggled, moments where they made a mistake, where they had a big challenge. So my idea was I picked up a camera in around high school. I fell in love with creating content. And I thought, let me document my journey so people get to see those mistakes. And the goal is to, one, inspire people that it's not about where you are. It's about where you want to get to and how hard you want to work to get there. And two, it's to provide that information and the resources and the tools for other players and individuals to succeed in their own career. So with the content I create, I would say my main goal is to provide the resources and the tools for players to get to the next level in every aspect of their life. And throughout this journey now, I've been able to create a community of over 500,000 people who are tuning in. So I'm excited to keep growing it and continue to make impact.
That's an inspiring journey. And why I'm saying this is because when you ask every little kid in the world, they want to be a footballer. But I guess that's kind of like the dream, but they never realize, or they rarely realize how much there is into it. No, and in one of our episodes, we talked about Professor Mohammed Yunus, Nobel Peace Prize, who will join you in World Football Summit as speaker. And he was saying, and we were talking about that, how there's a lot of players that aspire to get to the top, but they don't make it. So what happens then? And I think you actually took the step that he suggested, which is to become an entrepreneur. So basically, in a sense, you're an entrepreneur, but we'll get to that later. I did want to ask you, what has been, out of your journey, what has been the most rewarding part of the journey? But again, the most challenging part as well, because there's both sides of the coin to it, I would assume.
There is both sides to the coin to it. And with football, it's a roller coaster. The up is very up high and the low is very down low. So there's definitely been a lot of rewarding moments and a lot of challenging moments. For me personally, the most rewarding has been meeting fans in person, meeting people who tune into the content in person, and getting to hear the impact that I've made on their journey. So recently I have done a meetup in Dubai and a meetup in Montreal, and I had a lot of people come out, and just getting to connect with them in person was amazing. Getting to really find out who they are, what their journey is, how watching a piece of my content or tuning into the story gave them a tool, a resource, inspiration to keep going, to keep pushing on. And then the final part of that is giving them that in-person advice, but that's really customized to that person, because when you're in person, you get to really connect with somebody and get to feel their energy and their story. So whenever I have those interactions, those are by far the most rewarding. So I'll put that as number one. And then more in a football sense, the most rewarding is just playing at the highest level possible and having that realization of like all the different setbacks and all the different obstacles that you went through. So for me personally, the big goal is to sign the pro contract and play at that professional level. It's still in the process, and I'm excited to have that evolve to become the most rewarding part. But so far, I would say those things have been the most rewarding. And if we go to the flip side of the most challenging, I'll paint the picture. So imagine you're completely alone in a foreign country, no friends, no family, you don't speak the language, you're outside of the city center, you've made this big commitment to be there and make the move just for football. And now you're injured. You have a severe injury, you're not playing, you don't have that social aspect, you're completely alone. That the mental side of things is so difficult with football. And for me, I've had a lot of those moments where everything seems to be crumbling, everything seems to be going wrong, and you're alone. You look left, you look right, you don't really have anybody for support. And in those moments, that's when you have to keep going. That's when you have to keep showing up. That's when you have to keep pushing, because that's when 99% of people quit. But if you keep pushing through those downs of the roller coaster, an up will come. But those downs, just to paint the picture, that has been the most challenging for me.
Thank you for sharing that, because I would assume it's not easy to share that with the audience. It brings to mind, that's, I guess, why people say that entrepreneurship is hard. Because you have a dream, and going back to what we were saying before with Professor Yunus, not making reference to that conversation, entrepreneurship is hard because you have a dream that you're pursuing, and sometimes you're the only crazy person in the world that's, maybe not the world, but the people from your environment that is pursuing that dream. And sometimes they don't even understand it as well as you do. So that's when you feel, I guess, most alone. But that's, as you said, the key there is to be resilient. And just keep pushing and believing in yourself and your dream at the end of the day. So congratulations, because I think, you're succeeding. So keep pushing. I also want to, it's because, well, for anyone that hasn't picked it up yet, you go into these, trials, for example, and you start filming pretty much everything, no? And correct me if I'm wrong here, but you just go in, you set up your equipment, you start filming. Just out of curiosity, do other players or coaches kind of like look at you strange when you start to do that? Or is it because now we're used to social media everywhere? Is it something that's accepted?
So I would say now with the rise of social media, it's definitely become a lot more accepted. Also, just having a big presence now, sometimes they'll even recognize me and they'll be excited to like be on the video or get involved with things. For me, it's been very positive so far, both on the club's perspective, coaching staff, players. I don't film everything, so I make sure to keep things professional and in line with the boundaries set by the club. The clubs have seen the value of the social media side of things because obviously everybody who tunes into my journey is now going to tune into the club's journey, right? And that's going to send a lot more traffic their way, views, engagement, comments. It's a great move for marketing. It's a great brand move. So they see the benefit in that. And so I would say overall it's been positive. And yeah, football comes first, but I love doing social media to make an impact and share my journey. And overall, it's been very positive. So I'm happy with it.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and in a way, it's kind of like the dynamics that you see in general in football, where there's a player empowerment era, I know that they call it. So, for example, taking it to the superstar level, when you see Cristiano Ronaldo leaving from Madrid to Juventus, and you see the shift in followers going from one thing to the other, it's just amazing, no?
Yeah.
So you're obviously at a lower scale, but in a way, you're bringing followers to that team through your brand, no? You mentioned you had 500,000 followers at the beginning. Depends on, the ones that you count. I also saw I was making numbers and, between 500, 600,000. Does it get overwhelming to have so many people follow you around, even if it's on a digital world?
The answer is yes. It does get overwhelming. So there's the whole like work side of like being a football player and then doing content creation on the side and having such a big presence and pumping out so much content. It's a lot of work. So that aspect gets overwhelming. And then if we're strictly focused on like just the presence side of things, definitely once you grow, people recognize you. There's a lot more pressure on the line, especially with doing something that I'm doing, which is being super vulnerable and throwing out your shot and telling people you're going to do something big or you're attempting to do something big. And now everybody's got their eyes on you. And a lot of people are there supporting you, but a lot of people are there who are hating you too, and they want to see you fail. So there's two sides of it. And the more you grow, the more of that pressure comes into play. So you have like the football pressure, and then you have the social media pressure of knowing everybody's eyes are on you.
Yeah, and essentially you're building in public, to say. And that obviously, if you succeed, it would be awesome. But there's also the risk of failing. No? It's that double-edged sword that you always face. One of the reasons, and shifting a little bit over to other topics, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you into the podcast is I believe that football properties around the world can actually learn from your example and apply some of those lessons to their own social media strategy. So I wanted to ask first, how do you plan the content that you put out? Is there any frameworks, any strategy that you follow?
Yes. So I have three main content pillars. One of them is documenting my journey. So that's just sharing everything that has happened. The second one is information and education. So these are content pieces where I provide resources, tools, a set of information to players to help them out. And the third one is comedy entertainment. So this is just strictly like more on the fun side of things and doing something very entertaining. So those are the three content pillars I have right now. That's how I plan out my content, with doing something where I'm in the journey. Oftentimes I need to be very spontaneous. So if something happens, I oftentimes prioritize that first content pillar, which is documenting the actual journey. But to help me structure my content and move forward, I have those three content pillars: documenting the journey, information, education, and comedy entertainment.
which is actually a great framework to follow. And I've seen a lot of brands, not only people, but brands frame it from that sense. And one of the key ideas that I want the audience to pick up from this is, well, there's actually two. One, there's actually a lot of thought into what you're doing. So you're just not going out there and posting content. You know the content that you want to push and why. But second, you need to have that flexibility to kind of go out of your way because things happen. And in general, in the football industry, it's a reality of, every single day. Now, it's up to you to be kind of, aware of that's happening and react to it, because usually those are the times when you get more call it views, awareness, whatever objective that you're pursuing. One of the things that stands out from the content that you post is it feels very authentic, and that's the way why I'm asking this is, do you believe there's value in content that feels authentic, or does it have to have a professional look to it? Because you're recording videos essentially, and you see now how people are trying to brands are investing into high quality video content, but maybe part of the success that you have is actually something that you can relate to because it feels so authentic. So what are your thoughts there?
I think where the world is evolving to, they want more realness. They want more authenticity. They want to know if something is happening, it's actually happening. If somebody is saying something, it's actually what they mean and not just something that is supposed to be said. So although I do think there is space for corporate style videos and more professional type of content, we're now opening up the doors to what will be the next evolution of like social media content. And it's already in the process, and it's being authentic with your content. So most of my content, I actually just record with just a phone. It's in the moment. It's very authentic. If something happens, again, going back to what I said, it might be good, it might be bad, it might be success, it might be failure, but I'm sharing that process. And I'm doing it in a very natural way. And what that allows you to do is really connect with your audience. And if you want to influence somebody, impact somebody, story tell a message, if you have a deeper connection with them, you have more potential to do that. So how do you keep building that deep connection? It's by creating authentic content.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of the benefits that being authentic brings to the table is that you can do what you were mentioning before, which is be more spontaneous. You always have to wait until you have that perfect shot, that perfect quality. That's not going to happen. So, but anyway, the majority of your following is on TikTok. And it seems around the world, everybody, if they haven't started already, it seems they're late to the TikTok party. Based on your success, what have you learned about the famous TikTok algorithm?
So I have a recipe that I use that has allowed me to create content that gets a lot of views, a lot of engagement. It can really impact people. It can educate people. The recipe that I use, and you have to, as a content creator, and this comes with skill and with practice, you have to understand how to modify and shape the recipe depending on the content you want to create. But I'll outline the recipe for anybody who's listening, because it's a fantastic recipe for short format content to get pushed out. And the recipe is, you want to be creating content that's between 10 to 30 seconds long. You want to make sure you have a very engaging hook. That first clip in your video needs to engage the audience, or else they'll just swipe. They'll just swipe. So that hook is the first second of the video, the first 2 seconds of the video. You have to make it very visually appealing. Text that gets them curious, that gets them excited about what is that video? Why should I keep watching it? So the hook needs to be there. You need to use music, or you need to use audio that's either trending or that allows the content piece to have more emotions attached to it. So if you're able to tap into emotions, excitement, fear, frustration, happiness, gratitude, content will often do a lot better. Because if you can tap into emotions, people find an attachment to that and they're more willing to share it, to comment on it. Drama, beef, debate, any of that type of theme will help content be pushed out. The actual structure of it, so I said 10 to 30 seconds, every 3 to 4 seconds, you want a new clip appearing. So you don't want to just post a clip for 30, 40 seconds. Instead, every 3 to 4 seconds, you want a new clip appearing. You want to change tone, loud, quiet, change the way you talk, change the text that appears. So those are some of the things that I've used that have allowed me to come up with this recipe that I use for the majority of my videos, and I've noticed them do really well, anywhere from 50K to 100K to 500K to a couple millions of views.
I think with that, nobody has an excuse to not start playing around with TikTok. Doesn't matter because obviously, okay, the big football properties around the world are already there. I understand. But whether you're in a club or you're a player at any division in the world, with that advice and your example, there's really no excuse. So thank you for that. Now, yeah, it is true the majority of your followers are on TikTok, but you also have presence in other platforms. So I don't know if you can also share some tips, take it wherever you want, from other platforms you're working in, or is it just kind of repurpose the same TikTok content along the other platforms?
So TikTok has made a big impact in the industry over the last 2 years. And if you study how the other major platforms have responded to TikTok just dominating, it's Instagram Reels happening. You have that short format content. Now YouTube has incorporated YouTube Shorts. So everything's kind of going to that short format content. And so the secret, I would say, is execute on the recipe that I mentioned in the previous question. Apply that to Instagram Reels, to YouTube Shorts. Now you have Facebook Reels happening too. Snapchat is another big opportunity. LinkedIn is a platform a lot of people are sleeping on. They think it's just this corporate platform where you need to be super professional, and that professional aspect is important, but also post content on there and follow the recipe. Short format, engaging content that impacts people and educates them on something new, and you should be succeeding.
Nice. Thank you for that. Again, I think practical advice that anybody can get value from. So let's shift, because those lessons you mentioned are for anybody in business. If we shift towards the football industry in particular, which is what we want to transmit here on this show, what advice do you have for football brands looking to succeed in social media? Is there anything in particular they should consider?
I would say let the people know who you are, what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it, and then share the process of all those answers through engaging content. So again, let the people know who you are, what's your story, what are you trying to achieve, what's that big thing you're trying to achieve it, why. The why is very important too, and then share that whole process through short format engaging content. So like I said before, that means 10 to 30 second videos on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. When you create content, share the process, make valuable and information-based content, and then also, I would say, comedy and entertainment. Those are the 3 content pillars that I personally use. Post every single day across all major social media platforms. Social media is becoming such a saturated field. If you're only posting once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, it's not going to do it. You got to be there every single day. People have to see your posts, and they have to be good posts. So both quantity and quality is very important. Engage with your community. Reply to comments. The most important thing is building a connection with people who tune into your content, because then you have the actual power to make impact, to share a story, to promote a brand, a product, a service. And doing all of the above allows you to create a strong community, which will allow you to become very successful on social media.
What trend, if any, are you noticing, that football brands should consider that maybe they haven't done so already? Especially, I'm really looking towards the smaller tier clubs, because usually they have a harder time identifying these trends. So is there anything that stands out?
So if you're a smaller football club, document the process of your football club. That's going to be huge. If you actually document where your football club is at right now and share the season, share the training sessions, share the moments in training when things don't go well, the moments in training when things go amazing, when you win the match, share players, get people connected to the players' personalities. There's so many different content pieces that you can do under the umbrella of sharing the journey of your football club, but you want to get people attached to your football club. Again, who are you? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? What makes you unique? And then just share all that with people. A couple other things I'll say is videos are becoming more and more authentic. They're filmed on a phone in the moment. That's a big trend. That's what's really happening right now. So you don't need a crazy 4K camera just to record your club. Let's say you're a lower level club, or you're a brand starting out, or you're a startup. You just need a phone. Just start creating content with your phone. It's in the moment. It's very authentic. There's always popular trends going on TikTok, on Instagram. I can't give them to you right now because they change every single day, every single week. So what you have to do is you have to spend a couple minutes every single day on those platforms, study what works, study what doesn't work, and the trends that work, incorporate them into your content. Put out a big challenge and try to achieve it. That's another thing that I'm noticing people are doing. Anything that creates drama, beef, debate, that type of content will do well. And then the only thing I'll add to that is I think there's a negative theme around those words of like drama, beef, debate. You can always put a positive spin on it, right? And encourage positive debate in the comments and get people talking and sharing opinions. At the end of the day, football is a game of opinions. So if you create content that stimulates people to express their opinions, then you're really maximizing the potential of football on social media. So those are a couple trends that people can tap into.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a matter of just getting out there and testing. Sometimes you might discover gold where you don't see it initially, no? So it's just, I guess it also, one of the factors that you need to consider is also your fan base as a club or as a player. Once you have that connection with those people, you will understand what type of content they will like and what type of content they won't like. So really, it's about understanding the fan. Okay, so my next question is, okay, you're documenting your journey as a pro player now and your road to becoming one. But out of curiosity, have you thought about the next step? Is the next step a transition into becoming a sports business executive, or is it too early to think about that yet?
I have thought about it. I would say, so I don't think it's a next step. It's like a natural evolution of how things are going. I'm already deep into football, of course, and then the business side of things. I would say for me, it's side to side. And it's just about being aware and understanding what fulfills you the most and what allows you to be the best version of yourself. So, of course, football player first. That's where all my focus goes. But you have 3-4 hours of intense training, right? Where you're fully focusing on football. You can't be training for 8-10 hours. So the rest of my time, instead of watching movies, Netflix, playing games, whatever that might be, I prefer to spend that on creating content, on working on business projects that I currently have in the works. And that's what truly fulfills me. It gets me excited. It allows me to make even more impact. And so for me, it's a side by side type of thing. It's not like I have football now and then the next step is becoming an executive or whatever that might look like. It's a multi-dimensional thing. So currently I'm working on a couple of business projects that I'm really excited about in the football, health, fitness space. I have a couple of launches coming up too in the next couple of weeks. And also, actually, as these projects continue to evolve, I'm looking for people to get involved, partners, investors, anybody who wants to do something ambitious, something innovative and game changing in the industry. I'm always open to it. So let's talk. Let's do something big together. But for me, I would say it's something that is side by side, and it's just been a natural evolution of how the last couple of years have gone.
Well, congratulations on that. And in fact, I didn't know that beforehand. So really congratulations and a lot of respect there, because I think, unfortunately, when people think about, TikTok influencer, they have this negative stigma. And from what I'm seeing is you're all over the place. Okay, yeah, you're, from a brand perspective, maybe you're a bit more visual in your football journey. But as you just said, you're also working on a couple other businesses. So you're playing different set of cards. So, and that's tough. If it's already tough to build your own personal brand through TikTok the way you're doing, adding more, let's say, business projects that you want to participate in is really tough. So congratulations on that. Hopefully you'll get success in all of your projects. But anyway, I digress. You've worked with important brands in the world of sport. So I don't know if you can share with the audience who you worked with, a couple of examples, and more importantly, what have you learned from working with them?
In football, I've done work with Real Madrid, Espanyol, Stat Sports. There's been a range of those big brands. Let's talk about football clubs. So Real Madrid, obviously huge club. When you're working with brands like that, they're already doing things at the biggest level. So if you have an opportunity to collaborate with them, do something big and unique. That's the key word, something different and innovative. That's what I did for both of them. We got millions of views, very good engagement, and thousands of new followers. So they were both very happy with it. Obviously, big brands will have those guidelines and those corporate restrictions that you need to follow. But if you have your shot with them, don't be boring. Try and push those boundaries wherever you can, because that's going to be that's going to be the recipe for innovation, right? So they're already doing things at the biggest level. If you go and do something with them, make sure it's big. That's how they're going to remember you, and make sure it's unique. That's how they're going to remember you even more. And how to be unique is you have to push those boundaries a little bit. And that's what I did with Real Madrid and Espanyol. And I'm excited to continue doing that with any upcoming football brands I'll be working with.
Nice. And I mean, hey, top tier brands right there, Real Madrid and Espanyol. So, I mean, it's not a small feat, no? And in general, I mean, you are an influencer, to say. And for some reason or at least maybe it's my perception, lately there's been, I guess, a trend towards kind of not trusting the influencer as much as before. So I want to understand from you is, what advice would you give to football brands or sports businesses in general looking to take their influencer strategy to the next level?
I would say do work with influencers who actually have an engaging community and understand how to create valuable content that can open up the door to influence people to a new product, service, story, whatever that might be. The key there is work with influencers who actually have an engaging community, because most influencers, they're superficial. They don't really have that connection to their audience. And if you don't have that connection, then you don't have the potential to actually influence people to make decisions on buying a product, a service, on understanding a story, a brand message. So how can you identify that? Is look at comments. How many people are commenting on their posts? How many people actually care about that influencer? How often is that influencer engaged with the comments So the engagement is super crucial. How can you find those influencers? It's difficult. That's why when you come across somebody that has an engaging audience, it's valuable, and you should be grateful for it, take advantage of it, and all that. But the way I'm just trying to think, like, if I'm a brand and I'm trying to find a good influencer with such a saturated market right now, what I would do is I would go on the For You page, okay, on TikTok, or you go on Instagram Reels. I would just swipe, right? Earlier I said you have to spend a couple minutes, understand what works, what doesn't work. So you have to swipe, and when you're swiping, you're going to find a bunch of content creators. And I guess you can kind of relate it to scouting in football, right? You have to do your scouting work. You have to scout for these influencers. Once you come across a content piece that's gotten a lot of views, that's gotten a lot of comments, and you feel like it's aligned with what your brand is, what the product, what the service is that your company is about, or at least it's got the formula for it, right? That's when you click on that profile and you study a bit more, check out some different posts, check out their other social media, go on their Instagram, see how much engagement they have, see how big they are. And I think throughout that scouting process, you should be able to pinpoint some good influencers. A lot of it is going to come down to actually attempting to work with them. Do a brand deal, do a content piece. And then if you get positive feedback and things are working, that's a good indication of a good influencer. So engaging community, somebody who understands how to create content that can influence people to a story, a brand, a product. Those are the main things.
Well, thank you for that, because once again, you gave very practical advice that anybody can follow, not only in sports now, anybody looking to do an influencer strategy. So thank you for that. To me, Soheil, I must admit, you're a game changer. And why I say that is because you're building your journey in public, which is already something very brave to do. You're also opening up your horizons and looking into other business opportunities outside of your brand, and probably using the leverage, you're leveraging from the power of your brand to open up those opportunities. So that's smart. So, and I guess in a way you're not, well, maybe you are afraid to fail in public, but at least you're taking your shot. Now, why I'm asking you this is because I feel there's a lot of people out there that have it, quote unquote, that have the skills, they have the talent, but for some reason they don't. I'm not saying they have to become a TikTok influencer, but for whatever reason they don't pursue their dreams, right? They don't launch that business they have in the back of their mind, for example. So what advice would you have to those people that might have it, they're just not taking that next step of actually pursuing it?
So oftentimes, probably every single case, why you don't take that next step is because of fear, some level of fear, some type of fear, judgment, that if you make the move, what if you fail? What if people start talking about you? They start judging you. For me, what's really helped, and I deal with these things all the time, especially when I'm going out and I'm putting out such a big shot to sign a pro contract, play at the pro level. I've been getting a lot of judgment and a lot of hate. What really helps me, it starts with a mindset shift, and then you actually have to execute and put yourself in those uncomfortable positions and take risks and challenges. But the mindset shift for me is, what if? What if you actually go and take the risk? What if you actually go and pursue that big dream that you've always had, but you've never quite taken the first step forward because of what people might think of you, because of you failing? What would that story look like? How would you feel at the end of it if you go on and you achieve that big goal? If you keep showing up, if you take the risk, despite the hate that might come in, despite the judgment, despite the mistakes and the setbacks, you keep showing up. You keep going at your dream. What would that look like? What if you did that? Imagine the storyline. Imagine how you would feel. Imagine the impact you would make on all the people. That is the mindset shift that has helped me so much. And once you make that mindset shift, and hopefully it gives you that fuel, to start taking the first step, then it comes down to the actual execution, which is you have to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to take the risks. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it and the more your comfort zone expands. But sometimes you just need a mindset shift. And I'm hoping that what if you ask yourself, what if I actually took that big step? What would it look like? What would it feel like? Who could I impact? I'm hoping that gives you the fuel to take that next step today to get one step closer towards your dream or that big goal you have.
Couldn't agree more. And in fact, I sometimes use a similar framework. I turn it around a little bit and I ask myself, what if I didn't? So for example, I usually, for major decisions in life, I think, okay, when I'm hopefully 90 years old, would I look back and say, hey, I regret not doing that? And I know that framework is not new to anyone, but I try to apply that to every micro moment in life. So maybe I won't be asking that same question for every single decision, but I might go and tell myself, when I get into bed at night today, how will I feel like based on this micro decision that I have in front of me? So again, it's kind of like taking your framework of what if to what if I didn't. So I totally agree. So thank you for that. Before going on to my final set of questions, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, Soheil. Obviously, I'm curious. You're currently on trial with the football club in Dubai. So how's that journey going? Did you make it? Is there any update that you can share with us?
It's been very intense. So I came in just over 2 weeks ago. I came in to a closed trial. So they've had open trials throughout the year for this upcoming season. They've had hundreds of players come in, around 700 players they've seen in the open trials. The closed trials was meant for some of these open trials players who performed really well, and then players who are either semi-pro, they've played pro in the past, they already have some type of connection with them, they've played at a high level. So these closed trials, the level was very, very high. And at the start of the week, there was 100 players. They cut it down to 60 players after a couple of days. I made the cut. They then cut it to 26 players. I made the cut. The last stage was taking 8 of these players and moving them on to the official preseason of the club. Every session was a grind, 11v11 games. Everybody was fighting for that contract. But once that week went on, good news, I made that final cut too. So now I'm through to preseason. And now we have a little bit over, we have around 35 players. They're going to trim it down to a roster of about 23 or so players. And in the next week or two, I should find out if I'm going to secure that contract or if I'm going to be released. On my end, fully confident, fully focused in on not only making that roster spot, but making the starting 11 and having a game-changing season, both individually and collectively as a team to win the championship this season. So next 2 weeks, I'm going to keep grinding and also share content on what happened.
We'll be staying tuned for sure to see what happens, and best of luck with that. And I guess going back to what if you secure a contract with that club in Dubai? What are your expectations for the upcoming season?
When I secure that contract with the club this season, I'm going to have an outstanding individual season, just week after week, playing games, performing like crazy. On a team level, we're going to come in and completely surprise the division, win back to back to back to back. We'll have our setbacks. Every team has that. But by the end of the season, we're going to come out on top, win the championship, and that's what's going to happen. I'm excited for it.
Good. I hope that happens. And yeah, so basically you're going to take your mentality of aiming as high on your personal level to the team level. So that's nice. Okay, so I just have 2 more questions for you. One of them being, you've built a huge audience online. on digital channels, social media platforms, etc. But you will be joining us for World Football Summit Europe in September in Sevilla, the 28th and 29th, for those of you that still don't know. And you've been with us before. So what is the value of attending in-person events like World Football Summit?
It's massive. Just for context, so last year, I've never been into events, and then I found out about World Football Summit and just this young guy on a grind trying to make his dream happen. And I reached out to World Football Summit multiple times, and finally I was able to get in. And I said, let me into this event. I'm going to create some content for you guys and let people know about this amazing event. And I came in there and completely shifted my perspective and completely shifted my understanding of the importance of these big events. So I came in, I met some amazing people in the football industry. WFS is basically the biggest football summit happening every year. You have the biggest speakers, the best and biggest investors and partners in the football space, football brands, companies coming out. And what makes it so special is everybody's in person. It's fantastic having this digital presence, doing online networking, but there's something unique about being in person. And just even last year, I remember having those interactions with some companies and some of the speakers. There, you can feel their energy. And when you feel somebody's energy, you can make moves more aligned with your own values and your own business projects. And you can also make moves faster. Things speed up. And in today's world, speed is important. It's as important as direction. So for this year's WFS, I'm just so excited. Now coming in as a speaker, I'm going to connect with more speakers. I'm going to be there with different football companies, brands. I'm excited to connect with all the different attendees and also just from a distance, just see that energy of having over 2,000 people networking in person and innovating in the football space, creating partnerships, creating new products, new services. So I'm pumped. It's a couple of weeks away. It's like later this month. I'm super pumped for it.
And we can have to have you. But two things that stand out from that, and I think this is more advice for the younger ones out there. No, I am first off, it was actually you asking to attend World Football Summit last year, and you relentlessly pushed until you got your opportunity. So obviously you have something in mind. Keep pushing. The first no is not the one that counts. The one that counts is actually the first yes. And from there, you're expanding. You just have to keep pushing. So that's the first thing. And the second, what you said there really rings true to me, which is the value of in-person events. It's more about the relationships that you create there. And from a personal level, those relationships, even in 2 days, they can really last for years. You never know who you're going to meet there. And not only from a, because you said it, no, and I agree. I think from a professional perspective, those events help accelerate deals, but also from a personal perspective, it helps you build connections that last years. So I'm glad to see that we're aligned there. And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in person in Sevilla in a couple of weeks. So hey, this has been fantastic. I hope people learn as much as I did during this conversation. I don't know if before we go, if you want to leave the audience with any parting thoughts, and I do want you to tell them where they can follow your journey and follow you. Is there any particular website, social media channel that you want to send them to?
Yes, final thoughts. Remember the what if and the what if I don't, to your point. Let that fuel you. Let that take the extra steps today to get one significant step closer to your dream, your goal. WFS is coming up on September 28th, 29th in Sevilla, Spain. It's going to be massive. If you're anybody in the football space, you need to be there. So be there. And finally, to find me, it's just at soheil.var. So SOHEIL.var, VAR on all social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You can find me anywhere.
And we'll include that in the show notes. So Soheil, thank you very much. It's been fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And thank you.
Amazing. I'm excited for it.
And there you have him, Soheil Bar. it is unfair to label him just as an influencer. He's an entrepreneur who happens to be building in public. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned more, not only about how to take your social media strategy to the next level, but to why it makes sense to keep pursuing your dreams. Once again, feel free to reach out across social media and let us know your feedback. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate it on the platform of your choice, and share this or any other episode with those you feel need it most. Nothing else from my side. We look forward to seeing you in the upcoming World Football Summit Europe and on the next episode of the World Football Summit podcast. Until the next episode, have a great rest of your day.